Our story today is taken from the Book of Hopes. You may have heard about this already. We mentioned it on the website, and it's a book that's come out just very recently, particularly for the lockdown and for children, to give hope. And there's lots of stories and poems in there. It's all free and it's available to everybody. We're going to read the very first story in the book today, and it's a story written by a well-known writer called Michael Morpurgo, who very much likes the outdoors and nature and the countryside. He's well known for writing many books, mainly for children. One of the well-known ones is called Warhorse, which was turned into a film as well. At the end of the story, we'll clarify 2 or 3 words and mention 1 or 2 other things. But here is the story. A Song of Gladness by Michael Morpurgo. A Song of Gladness. I've been talking every morning to Blackbird, telling him why we are all so sad at the moment. He sits on his branch and listens. It was Blackbird's idea. He sang out this morning at dawn from his treetop in the garden to Fox, half asleep behind the garden shed. She thought it a good idea too. It was a wake-up call. Fox was on her feet at once and trotting through Bluebell Wood, where she barked it to Deer, who ran off across the stream. Kingfisher was there, Otter and Dipper too. They heard and piped it on, and Swallow swooped down over the meadow and passed it on to cows waiting to go into their milking, and to sheep resting quietly under the hedge with the lambs in the corner of the dew-damp field. And they all agreed, bleating it out to bees already busy at their flowers, to weaving spiders and grasshoppers and scurrying mice. Trees heard sheep calling too, the whole flock of them, and waved their budding leaves in wild enthusiasm, and high above the clouds wandered through the skies driven by wind, and wind took Blackbird's idea over the cliffs, across heaving seas, where gulls and albatross cried it out, and whales and dolphins and porpoises heard it, and wailed and whooped it down into the deep, where turtles listened, and they too loved the idea. So did plankton and every fish and crab and sea urchin and whelk. They all whispered that it was a fine notion, the best they ever heard. And the whisper went over the sea on the curling waves to the shores of Africa, where lions roared their approval, and elephants trumpeted it, leopards yawned it, water buffalo belched it, wild dogs yelped it. Wildebeest murmured it out across the savannah, and storm lifted the idea up over rainforests, where rain took it and poured it down on gorillas in the mist, on chimpanzees in their sleeping nests. Howler monkeys and gibbons echoed their calls loud over all the earth. They are that loud. And then, from far up high, Sun heard it too, and shone it down over deserts, where Oryx stamped her foot, impatient to be getting on with it and doing it. She loved the idea that much. Even Camel, who rarely joined in anything, thought this was the best and most beautiful idea he had ever heard. Back in the garden, Blackbird waited till everyone was ready, and then he began to sing. And the whole carnival of animals, every living thing on this good earth, joined in until the globe echoed with the joy of it, and Blackbird was very pleased. But I was still lost in sadness as I heard the earth singing around me. It was a song of forgiveness. I knew that. So I asked Blackbird if I could join in. And he sang his answer back to me. "Why do you think we are doing this, you silly man? We want you and yours to be happy again. Only then will you treat us and the world right again, as you know you should. Only then will all be well. Sing, silly man, sing, sing. Our song is your song. Your song is our song." So I sang. We all sang away our sadness. In every house and flat and cottage we clapped and sang. In every hut and tent, in every palace and hospital and prison. And they heard and we heard our song of gladness, echoing all together in glorious harmony across the universe. I enjoyed that story. I think it is a hopeful one. We picked just 2 or 3 words to clarify from there. The first one is this word dipper. Now you may know what that means. My wife knew what this meant, but I wasn't sure. So a dipper is a bird. The second word to clarify is the word savannah. Again, I wasn't quite sure about this, but a savannah, there's a photo of a real savannah in Africa, and there's plenty of grass, so it's a grassland area. Can you see the grass there? But it's also tropical, which means it's near the equator. It's in a very hot part of the world. And finally, there are some trees, but it's not like a forest or a wooded area. There's just trees scattered around, so that's a savanna. And then the third and final word we're going to mention today is this word notion. Now you may have a notion of what that means. From the context, here it is. They all whispered that it was a fine notion, and that was Blackbird's notion. So a kind of synonym for notion is probably the word idea. A notion is if somebody has a notion, they have an idea. Now another question for you. I wonder if some of you can get this without any clues. We will add some clues in a moment, but can you think of another story that we read in Year 4 that similarly ends with music, and music going all around the world, and the music making people a bit gladder and a bit happier and more peaceful? Can you think of that story? Pause the video if you want lots of time to think. We're going to give you a clue now. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly the world became wonderfully peaceful. The singing got inside everybody and made them as peaceful as starry space, and blissfully above all their earlier little squabbles. Got it? Another little clue. 3, 2, 1. The strange, soft, eerie space music began to alter all the people of the world. They stopped making weapons. The countries began to think how they could live pleasantly alongside each other, rather than how to get rid of each other. All they wanted to do was to have peace, to enjoy this strange, wild, blissful music from the giant singer in space. Sure you've got it? 3, 2, 1. Yes, the Iron Man that we read earlier in Year 4. So that is the first story from this new book called The Book of Hopes, which is a collection of stories and poems, all linked with lockdown, written for children and to give us some hope. You might like to look it up, and if there's another story or a poem in there you'd like the Year 4 teachers to read, let us know at the usual Year 4 email address, and that could be the next story that we have in our Year 4 story time. Bye for now.